All right, all right, all right. Well, thank you all, both NSBE and NCNW folks, for joining in for this panel discussion, Women in Engineering. So, want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I am one of your co-moderators for this evening, Farah Martin, joined by Markel Lambright, President of the NSBE XL chapter, for those who don't know him. But before we get into the panel, I do want to take a moment for each of the organizations to introduce themselves to those who are not familiar with neither. Markel, you want to kick it off for NSBE first, or do you want us to go first? It's up to you.
Ladies first.
All right, so on behalf of NCNW Co-op City Section, we actually have our president, Miss Lisa Wade Stewart, who will do our introduction for us, and then we'll turn it back over to NSBE so they can give their introductions.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I am Lisa Wade Stewart, the president for the National Council of Negro Women Co-op City Section. So happy that you're able to join us tonight. I know that there's going to be more that's going to be in attendance. So let's get started. The National Council of Negro Women's mission is to lead, empower, and advocate for women of African descent, their families, and communities. We're an organization of organizations comprised of over 330 campus and community-based sections and 33 national women's organizations that enlightens, inspires, and connects more than 2 million women and men. We were founded in 1935 by Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, who is an influential educator, activist, and entrepreneur. Today, we are led by our national chair, Dr. Lois Keith, and our president and CEO, Reverend Dr. Siobhan Arline Bradley. Our organization is founded on grounded on critical concerns that are now NCNW's priorities. Our organization promotes education, encourages entrepreneurship, financial literacy, and economic stability. We educate women about health and promote healthcare access and promote civic engagement and advocate for sound public policies and social justice. Our Co-op City section is one of 3 sections located here in the Bronx, and we were founded in 1971. So that's the most about our organization. We're very, very proud to say that our national organization is going to be celebrating its road to 90 years, and our local section here in Co-op City is celebrating its road to 55 years of service. Thank you, Farah.
Thank you, Madam President. Markel, up to you.
Greetings and welcome. My name is Markel Lambright, and I am the NSBE NYC chapter president. If you're not familiar, NSBE stands for the National Society of Black Engineers, and our mission is to increase the number of culturally responsible Black engineers who excel academically, succeed professionally, and positively impact the community. Now, NSBE itself, the national organization, was founded in 1975. But this particular chapter, NSBE NYC, was founded in 1990. And our aim is to create and produce programs that elevate and develop Black engineers and technical professionals in the New York City metropolitan area and surrounding areas. So some of those programs include professional development conferences like PDC, which is hosted once a year, social and networking mixers, general body meetings that have professional development workshops incorporated in them, and starting next year, our first Black Tech Honors Gala and Awards dinner. So if you would like more information about NSBE NYC and how to join, I invite you to visit our newly launched website, NSBE NYC, that's NSBENYC.org. Thank you.
So we just a side note, we will have some time at the end where we'll make these announcements again, and we will drop those links in the chat so you don't have to memorize what those links are for both organizations. So, all right, I think it's ready to get started here. So, Markel and I were kind of just brainstorming with everything going on in the world and DEI and all those buzzwords and unfortunate things happening in our society, we thought this would be a great opportunity to actually shine a light on positivity within our community, especially Black female engineers. So as we're transitioning out of Black History Month and we're transitioning into Women's History Month, we thought this would be a great great time to have this panel discussion, especially for local girls and young women and young adults in New York City seeing the products of their environment. So there are a few folks on the phone, myself included, engineers that live in the Bronx, still in the Bronx, have flourished outside the Bronx, local, not just the Bronx, anywhere in the country. So just thought this would be a great opportunity to shine and highlight a little joy because there's enough craziness happening on the world. So this is the time to spread some joy and some positivity in our community. Um, so the way this is going to happen, we are going to uh, Markel and I will be pinging back and forth, asking the panelists a series of discussion questions, giving them a chance to answer. And then we will have opportunities for the audience to ask their questions. So we will be monitoring the chat. So as we are going through our panel discussion questions, if there are additional questions that you want posed, please drop them in the chat and we will monitor it for the end because we do want to get your insight. We do want to hear what you guys have to say. So please feel free. Do not feel like this is going to be anything stuffy or anything scripted. We want this to be engaging and fun and a conversation, something that one of the panelists said on Monday. It's just a conversation. So we want to definitely want you to feel engaged with us. Markel, anything else before we kickstart?
Let's introduce our esteemed panelists.
All right. Actually, we're going to let them introduce themselves. So, Tahir, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Tahira Reed-Smith, and currently I'm a professor of mechanical engineering at Penn State University, and also the associate department head there for inclusive research and education. And there's so much I can say about myself. I might just have Markel play that C5, because I feel like, yeah, if you play a little bit of that, and there's just so much to my journey. I'm from the Bronx, boogie down, still got family out there. So yeah, that's me.
Do you want me to play a snippet of the video?
Maybe let everybody else do their
Okay,
entrance.
we'll come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll go next. Hello, everyone. My name is Aisha Laurie. I am currently based in Maryland, but I was born and raised in Jersey, so still Region 1 from NSBE. I am an electrical engineer by training, and I actually made a pivot into more of the STEM advocacy area and really got into nonprofits to really focus on being able to increase the number of women and minorities in engineering. So I've worked in industry, government, education. I even spent some time in the classroom as a teacher. That was not my ministry. So I found other ways that I can help young people and young adults just understand how cool and exciting engineering is. And so that's, what I've been doing. I am married. Actually met my husband in NSBE. So we've been married for 23 years. We have 17-year-old twins who are actually getting ready to go to college. So we're wrapped up in that process. And yeah, just looking forward to the conversation. Happy to be on the panel with all of these wonderful women. Thank you all for having me.
And finally, I'm Dr. Denisha McPherson. I am the immediate past president of the NSBE NYC chapter, and I also serve as the national professionals parliamentarian for NSBE currently. I studied industrial engineering and psychology at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I am born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. So New York is home to me, and I'm glad to. And I lived in the Bronx for about 5 years, so that is home, no matter where we look at it. I worked in television for a number of years, and now I currently work as a project manager for the state of New York. We're getting to do some transitions from legacy systems to Salesforce environments for the state of New York. So still aging environment that New York State has with very old technology that helping them go into the 21st century with technology. And I'm looking forward to this talk.
Awesome. All right, ladies. All right. So I'm going to kickstart off the question. I'm actually going to pose this to Aisha first. Aisha, you're going to go first with this one, but all three ladies will answer the question. What initially sparked your interest in engineering?
Okay.
Was there a particular moment or experience that drew you into this field?
Yeah, actually there was. So when I would say up until my junior year of high school, I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Just because I didn't see people who looked like me in engineering. We didn't even talk about engineering back then. The acronym was even different. It was called SMET. I'm glad they changed it. It was science, math, engineering, and technology. So glad they changed it. But I didn't hear about engineering. No one really spoke about it, but I was always very curious, always did well in math and science, but didn't know what to put to it. I just knew that I was going to be a lawyer because I was on a debate team and my mother watched a lot of law shows in the 80s. The women looked glamorous. They didn't look like me, but they carried a briefcase. And during that time, if you carried a briefcase, that was everything. So I was like, I need a job where I could carry a briefcase. So it wasn't until my junior year of high school, one of my teachers, my math teacher, actually asked me what was I going to do when I went to college. I told her I was going to be a lawyer, and she said, I think you should be an engineer. I was in all of the math clubs and science clubs, and she was an advisor for most of them. And she was like, I see the way you break down problems, you do it in a very analytical way, and I think you would be a great engineer. And so she is what actually introduced me to it. So I had to go to the library, and I didn't even realize there were so many different disciplines. I just was like, oh yeah, I'll be an engineer, and had to go figure out which one. And I didn't realize, again, there were so many. That same teacher took me to the college that I actually wound up going to, Stevens Institute of Technology. She had some faculty because she was doing some teaching there, and like 5 faculty members, they were all men. None of them looked like me. And they came and talked about their discipline. And basically, it was like Charlie Brown. It was like wah wah wah. I didn't understand what they were saying, but it was one professor in electrical and computer engineering. He brought an actual traffic light. He brought the traffic light. He talked to me about it, and at that time I was 16, so I was learning how to drive. So I was paying even more attention to traffic lights. And when he talked to me about it and just showed me the importance of the traffic light, and then, I knew that a Black man invented the traffic light. So it was even more appealing, to me. And when he showed me the technology behind it and also talked to me about how it helped to help society, he was like, no matter where you go in the world, at least in every town or city, there's at least one traffic light. And this helps to save lives. And so after that, that was it. I came back to school. And even in my yearbook after that, I said, I'm going to be an electrical engineer. So that's actually what prompted me to study electrical engineering.
All right, Denisha, you want to answer the question too?
Hi. So I joke often about this, but I became an engineer out of spite. And I say it because in my sophomore year, I was attending Brooklyn Tech, and I had joined the NSBE chapter at Brooklyn Tech. We have something called the Pre-College Initiative Program in NSBE that exposes kids from K through 12 to science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And I had recently gone to a NSBE conference, and I was super excited because that was the first time that I saw a sea of Black engineers, and it was mind blowing to me. And I was really excited. I came back and I said, I know what I want to do with my career. And I said to my math teacher at the time, hey, I know what I want to do. I want to be an engineer. And he said, some people shouldn't have such lofty goals. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, if you ever build a bridge, make sure you write your name in bold letters so I know not to cross it. Right. And so at that time, I had just taken my pre-SATs, scored off the charts. I already was starting to get scholarships and all these things. So I knew in my head that and whatever he had to say wasn't for me. And so when I say I did it out of spite, it was because he told me I couldn't, and I had to prove him wrong. And so I was like, you know what? Not only am I going to be an engineer, I'm going to go to the school that built engineers. So I'm going to go to RPI. And he's like, it's gonna be slim chance that you get an RPI, but let's see, right? And so I had gone up to RPI for their Star Weekend, where they actually took us up there, and I had fallen in love with the campus. I fell in love with some of the people because they had an active NSBE chapter, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go to RPI. And when I got my acceptance letter, I was like, you said I couldn't, but here you go. I'm going to RPI. And he's like, well, let's see if you graduate. And so at that moment, the lesson was that you got haters. There's people that will be haters until the day they die, and you cannot let them stand in the way of your progress. So when he said all those things to me, number one, I never told my mom because my mom, as a West Indian woman, I figured she'd be in jail. So I was just like, you know what? Let me not tell my mom that he said any of these things to me, because my mom was the type, if I told her a teacher had anything to say, she'd be flying up to the school to say something to them. So I never told her that until much later as I was adult. And even as a full grown adult, my mom was mad to high heaven that I did not let her handle her business as a mother. As she said, it's like, you are my kid and nobody is supposed to wash their mouth on you to tell you what you can and cannot be. If you make that decision, that's on you. But ultimately, not only did I go to RPI, I graduated with a double major in my undergrad, and then I went back to RPI for my master's too. So it was one of those things where he told me I couldn't do it, and one of the reasons that I stayed in the program is, number one, because NSBE pushed me to finish, and number two, I heard his words and he told me I couldn't do it, so I had to finish.
I have some words, but I won't say them on camera. Um, Tahir, you want to wrap up the question and give your response?
Sure. So for me, it started in middle school where I really had good math teachers and I just loved math and science. They made it very fun, engaging. And so by the time I got to high school and it was time to start thinking about college, I had this very simplified logic that I said, if you're good at math, you should study engineering. And if you're good at science, you should be a doctor. And so I was like, well, maybe I should major in biomedical engineering. And that was my intention at first. And this is back in the day where when you started college as a freshman, your major was kind of declared on day one. Nowadays, they have what is called first year experience, where everybody comes in just general and then they matriculate into majors. Back then, if you said you were biomedical, that's what they had you as. And so we had a career fair one year and the resumes were out and one of the recruiters saw that, I'm a biomedical engineering major. And then he said, you're too specialized, and I was like, I'm taking the same class. At that time, I was a freshman. I was like, I'm taking the same classes as all the other majors. And I remember it just leaving like a bad taste in my mouth. And then I met someone, she's a Black female engineer, and I went to RPI as well. I did my undergrad at RPI. And Jennifer Oda Tigby, she was a senior undergrad student studying mechanical engineering. And I don't know how I got into a conversation with her, but she was like, Tahir, why don't you just switch to mechanical engineering? You could always do biomedical things after, with a mechanical engineering degree. And then that's how I switched my major. So that one encounter, it's funny how these that one encounter with a recruiter saying I was too specialized and I couldn't get, I was trying to get a summer internship. And that one major made him say I was too specialized. I was like, oh, okay. But I got an internship the next summer, going to a NSBE conference. That was my first NSBE conference, and I got a summer internship. So really, that is what led me to choose engineering, and I went on to do bachelor's degrees, master's degrees at RPI, and then I did an interdisciplinary degree at University of Michigan, a PhD in design science, where I combined my mechanical engineering and psychology to sort of better understand the human side to design and integrating that together in a mechanical engineering context.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. Markel, I turn it to you.
Thank you for sharing your background. I think that's so important for those of us who are on the call who are not familiar with the organizations or just the journey that a lot of us go through to enter the engineering world. So I'm going to ask each of you specific questions, and I'm going to start with Tahira. Tahira, could you tell us about the double Dutch machine and why pursuing its development has become a lifelong passion? And let me just give this question some background. I've known Tahira since, well, I'm not going to say it yet because that's going to date me, but I've known her for a very long time, since college. I remember her telling me about the double Dutch machine when I was in college, right? So I firsthand have witnessed and seen her perseverance in this journey. Please share that with the audience.
Yeah, so if I'm gonna give you the short answer and then expand it. So largely when it came to double Dutch, I had this idea as a child, and then when I got to college at RPI, I took a design class, and the theme that semester was challenging the limits in sports and recreational activities. And I remember this idea I had in the 3rd grade. I was going to PS 97 in the Bronx. I don't know if anybody is, that was over off of Mace Avenue, I think with District 11. And there was a poster contest in 3rd grade. Draw a picture of something you wish you could have. So now I'm about to date myself. The Space Shuttle Challenger disaster had happened. And so all the other kids were drawing pictures of astronaut suits and rocket ships. And I was an only child at the time. And I was like, you know what? I love double Dutch. I wish I had somebody who could turn the ropes for me. I wish I had a machine that could do it. And so I drew this sketch and won first prize in the poster contest and all of that. And I'm still in touch with my 3rd grade teacher who remembers all of that and all of it. So it was real sweet. But all that to say, I forgot about it. And then in college, I remembered in that design class, and I had the aha moment, like, oh yeah, that idea I had. And it's like my passion just came alive. And I had an instructor that was very supportive of me. He grew up in the Bronx, white male, Jewish. He knew what double Dutch was, so he encouraged me a lot. And I kept taking classes with him while I was an undergrad. And then in 2000 is the time that it first working prototype. And so there was a lot of press and media around that. I had gotten a first patent filed, and then I was noted as the first undergraduate to get a patent at RPI while still being an undergrad. That's the mini claim to fame kind of thing with that part. And then New York Times wrote an article, like different people kept writing. This is before YouTube and things going viral. The version of viral back in those days was everybody just kept writing until one day the Today Show invited me to come on. So what happened in 2000, Markel, this question of why did this keep going? Even if I tried to not do it, it kept following me. And I'm going to tell you, it kept following me. So 2002, Veronica Chambers wrote a book about double Dutch and did a chapter featuring me to hear read Ben Franklin's answer to double Dutch. That's 2002. And then some other little things happen. And then I go on, get a PhD. I have no time to work on this. I become a professor at Purdue. I'm doing a TED Talk at Purdue, 2012. They didn't want to hear about my research. They said, Tahira, we want you to talk about that double Dutch thing. 2012, I'm doing a TED Talk at Purdue as a professor. They want to hear about the double Dutch thing. That's 2012. I'm minding my business, y'all. 2017, my friend Danielle, who has a daughter who's a 4th grader in New York, she inboxes me on Facebook, Tahira, You are crazy. You're famous. Do you know that my daughter came home from a school and from an exam, and your story was on the exam? It was the English Language Arts Common Core exam for fourth graders in the state of New York. I was speechless for like 3 days. I was humbled and speechless for 3 days. I was like, whoa, I'm on a standardized test. What? They got the story out of the Veronica Chambers book. This is 2017. And I'm going through the tenure process. I'm busy doing that. And all this is happening and different little things here and there. And then I come to Penn State in 2023, and then Scholastic reached out to me, hey, can we do this? And I was like, this is starting to feel fraudulent, because people are constantly wanting to hear about the story, and this product doesn't exist on the market. I was like, this is good. I'm gonna tell you, Ebony Magazine did something very cute and prophetic. They wrote an article in November 22 saying, let's thank these 7 women, Black women inventors for making our lives easier. They had the lady who made the iron board. They had somebody and they had Tahira for helping us burn our calories off after Thanksgiving. And I'm like, 22, this product is nowhere on the market. But because of media constantly telling the story over and over, I could not, it's almost like I had no choice. Like, it just kept following me. And so 23, I finally found this company, Spec Design. Turns out that they're the only Black-owned product design company in the country. I'm gonna tell you, I did like a divine Google search. Don't ask me how I found them. I just Googled, and they love my story. They gave me a deep discount to work on this prototype. And I mean, maybe you could show that video, Markel, the video of it working. Because what happened was, for years, it was always this student project proof of concept thing, clunky and impractical. Like, if you guys go on YouTube later and Google, look me up, you're gonna see the 2000 version on NBC. But that's it working now. That was December 24. That's me jumping. And you can control it with an app, an iPhone app. So I had them set it to number 38, like speed level 38. That's the numbers. And that was comfortable because I'm a lazy jumper. I like to jump with 2 feet together. So that is November 22 by Spec Design, this company in California, owned by a Black man from the Bronx, who's an electrical engineer, who is from Queens, not from the Bronx, from Queens. He is the owner of this company. And that is, so to answer that question, Markel, part of it was like, I don't know how to say it, purpose. I couldn't leave it even if I tried. So I'll leave it right there.
Tahira, thank you for sharing that with us. It's funny that your story preceded the actual invention, right? And you inspired young girls before the product even came to market, right? So that is a testimony to the power of dreaming and actually following your dreams. And now, you have created something that can help young girls double dutch. I mean, I don't even know if girls today double dutch. Do they double dutch on TikTok? Do they double dutch on Instagram? I don't know what kids today do, but I know I ain't seen nobody double dutch in a while. But they need to know about this product. All right, Jump Dreams, y'all. JumpDreams.com, especially all the parents. Talk to the hero. We're gonna get your information. Get you a double dutch machine. Help your kids stay active. All right.
Not quite on the market yet. Still doing some things, but you can fill out an information, like product interest form on the page.
It's coming. Thank you, Dr. Smith. All right, Farah, I turn it back over to you.
This is awesome. And I'm sorry, I have to plug it too. I graduated from RPI as well. I mean, if we're going to shout out schools, we're going to do it properly. Shameless plug. All right, ladies, back to the panelist questions. Denisha, I'm going to kick it off to you for this one first. What unique strengths and perspectives do you believe you bring to the engineering field as a Black woman?
So I don't know if any of you recently watched the 6888 movie and or Hidden Figures, but there was a line in it that says, "If you have a problem, give it to a black woman." And point blank and period, we by nature know that we don't get the benefit of second chances a lot, because often when we walk into rooms, spaces, and places, if we mess up, they're judging the entirety of our, not only our race but our womanhood, based on us and how we perform in the spaces and places that we appear in. So I worked in television from 2013 to 2018. So I worked at NBC Sports, working on the Olympics. I did 3 Olympic Games: the Sochi Olympics, the Brazil Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, and the Pyeongchang Olympics in South Korea. And I also did the World Track and Field event in Beijing, China. When I arrived, I was the first, the only, and the last Black female engineer at NBC Sports. And when I asked the question, well, why am I the only one that looks like me? And the answer was, "You're a unicorn." And I was like, "I'm not a unicorn because I went to RPI. I see Black women, white women, Hispanic women. I see a lot of women engineers. So why is it that you don't know where to find us?" And I was like, "And where are you looking?" And so the things that I think, the unique perspective that I think we bring to the table is, number one, tenacity. Number two, we know how to make a dollar out of 15 cents. So we know how to do more with less. And even when they think that they are giving us a challenge, some of the things that they're giving to us is light work, because the to be able to navigate the world as a Black woman in STEM, you gotta have a thick skin, because literally been sitting in classes and men would be like, "Well, girls don't belong as engineers." "What do you mean girls don't belong as engineers?" "Well, I'm here." Like, I'm not going anywhere. And even when you would walk into classrooms and you're the only one that looks like you, and I'm pretty sure of our us RPI ones, and even the Stevens, you look around and you look in the classroom and you're like, what? Well, what the hell? Like, I'm even the only one in here too. And RPI was a 3-to-1 a male female ratio, so that was already bad in itself, because they didn't have as many women. Period. But then when you walk into these spaces and they're literally prejudging you by the moment you walk in there. I would literally be in classes and the first thing is like, "The only reason why you're here is because of affirmative action." I was like, "Really? You know my whole background, you know my story. You just saw me and you're saying I'm here because of affirmative action." I was like, "Let's go toe to toe." And again, I am one of those individuals, when you tell me something, I'm very contrary. I am going to say, lay it out on the table and show me where you're better than me. And when in the end you will end up looking mediocre, it is what it is, right? And so the other thing I say that we bring to the table, I think, is a level of bravado, because we're gonna fake it till we make it. Even if I don't know how to solve it, I know that I'm not walking out of that space or place without a solution. So I don't care. But and my personal motto is, I will find a way or make one. And so it's one of those situations that I think the resilience that we bring to the space, the level of creativity, because again, when you come in from little to nothing, you're gonna rise. There's no other choice. And I think Denzel said it best. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm leaving with something, right? And so it's one of those things where I definitely have the kind of bravado walking into spaces where it's like purely white men, and they're already giving you the, "Oh, poor little girl" kind of attitude. And I'm working on like, "Hey, my womanhood has nothing to do with my intelligence. So let's make this work."
Listen, you have said all the things right now. Aisha, you want to tap into that one?
Whew, I mean, she said a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's just the way it goes. And, I feel like, it really resonated, being called a unicorn, like you can do anything. We know that we can do anything, but I mean, we still have feelings. There's still things that we struggle with as well. And we still deal with a lot of imposter syndrome, right? That was like a huge challenge because there are so few, women in this space, so few, Black people, other minorities within this space. It does, you do question it. When I was in college, I went to a PWI too. It was really, really white. So I heard all of the conversation, like you're just here because they needed to fill a quota. And it did make me question at times, like, wow, is that the reason why I'm really here? But I think one of the other panelists mentioned it. I think Denisha, you said, my mother would not let me leave. She said, if you want to leave, you leave because you want to. Right. I would call crying, like, I need to get out of here. This is just unhealthy. Not only was it my peers, but there were many of my professors, who had comments and would say different things. And one situation in particular, it was one of my electrical engineering core classes. There were 4 women in the class. 2 of us were Black. There was a Hispanic woman and then an Asian woman. And the professor had us stand up and basically said he was going to make it his business to make sure we didn't make it out of his class. I mean, it's like, can you just imagine like being in a class and you already feel like intimidation as it is? And like the other people in the class, nobody even thought like it was a real like problem and issue. Right. And so 2 of the women just left the university altogether. But just the same way Denisha said, when I graduated, I brought my parents to that professor and I told my parents, oh, this is the professor that really helped me make it. And he was in total shock. Like he was surprised. And it was because he did put that, try to put those obstacles in my way, that I was like, you will not do that, because I know I am great. I know I come from greatness and I know that I can do this. So it's just like you have to, kill the noise when you know what you know. And that I carry with me in everything that I do.
Can I chime in about this imposter syndrome? Listen, imposter syndrome, I put in the chat, is so real, y'all. Let me tell you. And what I realized is that imposter syndrome, the root of it is silent comparison. Like, I used to say things like, okay, when I get a PhD, then I'm a. And I was like, when I get tenure as an assistant professor, then I'm a. And I'm gonna tell you every level, because I've done all. I'm a full professor now, and I'm like one of maybe 5 in the country. I'm gonna say 10 just in case we missed anybody. One of 10 Black women in America that's a full professor in mechanical engineering. Okay, and so you could go to every level and find that imposter syndrome pop up again, pop up and show, but not in the right thing. Okay, you don't want it popping up and showing. And so we have to monitor that silent comparison. And I think also as Black women, it's kind of building off of what Denisha said. On the one hand, we are the type to make sort of a dollar out of 15 cents and make things happen. But on the other extreme, failure hits us very hard. And I'm gonna tell you, being a professor and getting to sit on the other side of the table, where in my class, in my office, who were the students coming to my office crying, stressed? It wasn't the women, it wasn't the Black students, it was the white males, the Chinese males. And I said, we walk around feeling like we can't cry, we can't. No, they be in my office crying, not us. And that was my opportunity to see the other side. But when you're a student, you're constantly walking around feeling like, especially if you don't hit the mark, you're feeling inferior, you feel like they're better because of stereotypes and branding and marketing and the media and the images, right? And meanwhile, they be over there stressed as all get out, just like you. So, and that's the thing that we have to understand is, it is okay for you to be stressed. It is okay for you to fail sometimes, fail forward. But when we fail, we take it hard. I had major failure in grad school, y'all. It was so demoralizing. I couldn't even talk about it till like 2 years ago, y'all. As a professor, I'm like, I'm full now, so I could talk about how I failed the qualifier exam because my identity got locked up in that. It's like my success means that I'm successful. Like if I fail, then I'm a failure. And someone had to tell me, Tahira, engineering is what you do, it's not who you are. So I just had to chime in on that imposter syndrome because it really gets real. So, all right.
Listen, that's why we're having this conversation. If we walk on tangents, if it all falls back, listen, whatever works. Mark, I'm gonna turn it to you for your next.
Well, I gotta say, I gotta give the three of you kudos for turning your adversity into strength. Right? That is a rare quality that a lot of us have not yet mastered. So kudos to you for that. Now, my next question is to Aisha. Can you tell us about your experience as a AAAS STEM ambassador in the life-size statue that is on tour, if that's the correct terminology, because I don't know how else to phrase that.
Yeah, that's right. It's on tour.
Okay, so tell us about AAAS, what it might stand for those who don't know, and give us some background on that story.
Okay, so I mean, it's still all related to this conversation about imposter syndrome. So AAAS, which is the American Association for the Advancement of Science, so they sent out a call probably around like 2019, and they were looking for women in STEM to share their stories and to become a fellow. And the imposter syndrome, someone sent it to me and said, you should do this. And I was like, I know, like I'm not doing this. What do I have to say? What do I have to share? And so I actually sat on the application. I didn't do the first round. There were 2 rounds. I let the first round go because I just kept debating back and forth. The second round, I waited to the last day. I would not advise this, but I waited to the last day. And I remember it was the last day because it was my anniversary. And it was due 11:59. And I kept all day. And my husband was like, listen, I got plans. So you're gonna do this or you're not gonna do this. I'm gonna go without you. And I toiled with it. I finally submitted it at like 11:50. Again, not I do not advise this. But it was just because I just felt like, what do I have to share? What do I have to offer? Like I'm sure there are like so many amazing women. I probably won't get selected. And I wound up submitting the application and I was selected. And so they chose 122 women in STEM from all different backgrounds to be fellows of AAAS, to basically be representation to not only young students, but also other women early in their career, to have them to understand like you can do this and to keep going. And so it was definitely an experience, especially when all of the ambassadors got together. And Markel, there's a slide that I wanted to show of the other fellows who participated. So one of the slides has all of the statues. They're orange, by the way, and they're orange because the funder, her favorite color is orange. And so she actually made the statues orange. And so if you see all of the pictures, these are all of the fellows. And the motto for the initiatives is if we support a woman in STEM, then she can change the world. And I just love that motto. And so as you can see, like I have one, every single one of the fellows has one. And the picture that you see standing with me standing next to mine is on the lawn of the Smithsonian. And so it was right on the National Mall, which was really cool. There was a really big, opening where, people from all over DC would be able to come, and even outside would be able to come and to see it. And so it was definitely just a huge honor to to just be a part of it. And so when all of these women, when we all got together, all phenomenal, incredible women, just like the panelists, that are here with me. We all got together and we were just in awe of each other. Just like, oh my goodness, you do what? And this is what you do, and that's what you do. So it was just, again, we all had imposter syndrome because we felt like what we were doing may not be grand enough. But when we got together, it was like, girl, you good and you're awesome and you're great. And so, we just need to all just continue to support and encourage one another because we can absolutely do it. And so the experience is awesome. The statues, they go on tour, they tour around the country, which is really cool. Right now, my statue is at Vital Voices. It's an organization focused on women's leadership and empowerment in DC. So it's like a museum, and so it's there. It actually also went to the Air and Space Museum, which was super cool because I worked at NASA for a time and I did research on acoustics. And one of the things that I did on one of my projects there was my team and I had to figure out how to help astronauts get a better night's sleep in space. And, again, when we think about these problems, they really do help people, right? So it's like engineers do things that help people and benefit society. And when the problem was first brought to my team, we were like, what's like, why are the astronauts having problems sleeping in space? Right? And it was because there's so much noise in the space station, right? There's equipment in there, there are computers and all these different things. And so when the astronauts come back, they get asked a bunch of questions, they go through a lot of tests. And one of their major complaints was that they can't get a good night's sleep. And so it was like we had to think about those different things and figuring out. And, one of my research areas, was acoustics. And so just thinking about how we can minimize the noise. And, there were a bunch of different things that we did, but it was just like, I didn't even think, I was like, okay, all right, we're going to solve this problem. We're going to figure it out. But I never really thought of in terms of like the magnitude of it and how it actually really helped the astronauts, right? So you're helping. And Mae Jemison is like just my person. Like I loved her as a kid. And, I was just like, I'll probably never be an astronaut, but to be able to work on this project and know that I've had a hand in helping astronauts sleep better while they're in space, it was just like a full circle like moment to me. And to have the statue in the Air and Space Museum where I went as a kid on a field trip and was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But just a little Black girl like me from the hood, I would never be, in here. It was just an awesome moment. And so that is, what the process was like, for me to be able to have the statue. And me and the ladies, we still get together. We have like, reunions and we still talk. We actually have a channel like in Slack where we call it Humble Brag. And it is basically for all of us to just talk about what we do and what we did. And we just big each other up like, girl, you did that, I see you. And it's really to help, try to overcome as much as possible, because I feel like it will, like, imposter syndrome will never go away, but we have to like celebrate and support each other. And it's like, oh my goodness, Denisha, you did what, girl? And Tahira, you did what? And Farah, you did what? And it's just like you need that support, especially when you're in spaces where you're the only one, right? And so just an awesome experience to be able to, have that. And in one of the pictures there as well, because I'm such a STEAM girl, I have a 3D printer and I made little tiny ones of them and gave them to like my family, and I made them in different colors. And so like my family's like, oh, I want a purple one, I want a white one, I want a silver one. And so I asked them if they could give me the object file, and I just made little tiny ones. So like people in my family have them. And so it was just really cool.
Aisha, thank you for sharing that incredible story, and it really just helps us to really appreciate the journey you've been on, and how, we can aspire to really do anything. And it also helps me remember this phrase, iron sharpens iron. So please surround yourself with those who are doing better than you, not feeling away, but use that as a vehicle to improve yourself. Thank you for sharing, and we'll turn it back over to Farrah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, ladies. Next question. Given each of your experiences, what are some of the big obstacles for Black women to enter in STEM fields and be successful? Let me see. Who did I
Can I
kick
go
out?
first? And the only reason why I want to do that is because my dissertation, I got my got my doctorate in June. My dissertation topic was nevertheless she persisted, examining the structural and individual barriers affecting the engineering careers of NSBE, SHEP, and SWE professionals. So I literally, for my dissertation, talked to women in the engineering workforce to understand the structural and individual barriers that affect their ability to thrive and survive in the engineering workforce. Thank you, thank you. And
Go
the
for
reason
it.
why I went to that topic specifically because I thought I sat my doctorate is in law and policy, and they took us to Washington and they took us in front of the Secretary of Labor, and he kept on saying out loud, you know what? People don't need to go get engineering degrees anymore. We're just going to put them into apprenticeship programs. And that is going to be the way that they are going to be able to do engineering now in the future. And I literally sat there and I said, do you know how hard it was to earn these degrees? And the reason why they make us earn degrees is because the work that we do affects people's lives every single day. And if it was as simple as just having a certificate, everybody would do it. There's a reason why the engineering numbers are the way they are. And I was like, the reason why people suffer is because of the access. We don't get we don't get our foot in the door. You don't give us the opportunity to get that foot in the door. And you give that tried answer of your unicorn when you do let them in the door. And so one of the key findings of it is number one, giving access to these roles, because the majority of the what looks like an engineer, and there was a big campaign that NSBE did, I look like an engineer, because we literally had to show the world that engineers don't only come in the flavor of white men. And so access was number one. The number two is having other mentors around you, because when you go into these spaces, finding yourself being the only one means that you don't have anything to aspire to, because your chain of command is mostly men. And then the third thing was that, unfortunately, if men aren't supportive of your career or your goals, they can literally stymie your entire career. And so one of the things that the findings of my study ultimately was that, number one, diversity, equity, inclusion is not a buzzword. It's real. It's a real issue. It's a threat to our national security that we are not diversifying our workforce, and we're not replacing our workforce as fast as it's retiring. And it's going to be us, because unfortunately, the future, not unfortunately, but fortunately, the future is woman, and it's Black woman. It is. We are one of the most educated groups in the country. We are out there fighting the fight, and ultimately, they're going to have to get out of our way. And so the answer to that question is, if they don't give us access, they don't open the front door, we come through the window, and it is what it is.
Tahira, you have anything else to add, Aisha?
I think the only thing, so the question was about what are some of the obstacles. you know, it starts in elementary school. I think the biggest obstacle is because, I mean, there are Black girls everywhere, but by the time they get to undergrad, grad school, it's like they just drop another. I know they talk about pipeline, some others talk about pathways. And I think it's like we need to get to the root of what's happening at the elementary school. It used to be middle school. Now we're going even further back. And I think a lot of it has to do with access. It has to do with location. Some of the effects of redlining is still impacting our people. Um, there's so many systemic issues that are still impacting our girls. And I mean, that's what I'm looking at. Because as if they get to the door, if they get the pathway, if they're able to get access to the pathways, then of course they can come and shine. The issue is, so there's a smaller number of us getting to the place of applying to college. I mean, even my own goddaughter, she was wanting to be an engineer. Now, I mean, and she's switching to something else. It's more science, but she wants to do nursing. One conversation with somebody or one class, I don't think I could do engineering. Just shut it down. And I think, and it's not just Black girls, it's girls. Like there's things that can be said that easily dissuades them. And so to answer the question, like, what are the barriers? I want to say it's thoughts, it's words, it's socialization, it's access. Those are the barriers. And if we could overcome like contrary misinformation, if we can help support them, it's kind of like with the AAAS, if you give them the support, then they will. That's down to elementary. I think that motto is it. So that's all I would say on that part.
Whoo, okay, can I keep it real with y'all? Can I keep it real?
This is family now.
Okay, so a big obstacle is all skin folk ain't kin folk. Okay, so it's amazing. We all need to support each other. We've struggled. Our ancestors have struggled, but I think at certain points in time, when we get to certain levels and places, we feel like, oh, because I struggled, that means you need to struggle too. And it's like, I struggled so you can get here, right? This is why I struggled. And I really noticed that. I did a research project of just women in engineering, undergraduate women in engineering, and I asked them about their obstacles. And one of the things that they said, which like surprised me, but it didn't, because I'm like, Aisha, this happened to you as well, is they said that their toughest professors were women. And it was because many of those women were like, listen, I was wronged, I was dragged, and I'm going to, for the quote unquote, put you through hell because I'm pretty much trying to make you stronger and tougher. And I think that we need to let go of that, right? If there are resources and opportunities where we can help and reach out, we need to just do that. We don't want to make it tougher for the next generation coming up, because even as you said, Tahira, words matter. Things do matter, and you can say the wrong thing to a young woman and totally deter her, especially when it's not about her ability, it's just about her confidence and her self-esteem. And so that was like a huge obstacle. My thing is, I'm going to take help from who's going to help me. And a lot in my career, there have been some really like exceptional white men who have helped me, and I took their help and said, thank you, sir, I appreciate it. And I took it and I did with it, and then I went back and I tried to pull another sister, like, listen, from the resources that I received from this man, I'm trying to help pull you through the door. I'm not going to reject it just because of you don't look like me. I'm going to take everything that I can. And so those have been some obstacles. And then the other one I will say is, what I've seen also for Black women is like, you can only have one in one space. And I've heard this from other Black women. I was leaving one job, and as I was leaving, the person who worked for me, I was trying to elevate her into my role before I left. Right. And when I brought her on, there was some other Black women in my circle that said, "You sure you want to bring her on? Because you're the only one. And then if you bring her, they may want her to like take over your job, or they may favor her." And it's like, we shouldn't be like that. If there are 10 spaces, I'm trying to have all, I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be by myself. I need somebody to come in where I could be like, "Farrah, did you watch the NAACP awards? Like, I'm gonna need somebody else to be in that space with me." So I don't want to be the only one. So we just have to continue to lift as we climb and take resources and opportunities from those who give them to us. I'm just keeping it real.
And can I just jump on that? And for this audience, this is very important. There are people who don't look like you who are willing to support you. And a lot of my mentors were not women. I had white men, my advisor, Greek, white male. He was like everyone's dad in the lab. Bert Swersey at RPI. And I can go through and see a lot of people who didn't look like me as I got higher up. When I got to the professor level, then I found my crew nationwide, right? I could find other Black professors, deans, presidents, all of that, right? So just don't be deterred if you look around and you don't see someone that looks like you. It's about making that connection. And a lot of times you find favor with people to help you get to where you have to go to next. I just wanted to emphasize that for anybody.
No, thank you, ladies. Listen, amazing conversation. I didn't want to even jump in. Markel, I'm actually going to give it to you for the last panel question because we're going to keep it. We're actually going to cut a few things because we definitely want to give some time to the audience to answer their questions. We want to be mindful of time. So, Markel, I pass it to you.
Okay, Denisha, this question is for you, this last panel question. And it is, given your recent doctoral studies and accomplishments in the field of law and policy, can you share with us what the leaky STEM pipeline is and what are the key ways we can address this issue given your research?
Okay, so the leaky STEM pipeline is a phenomenon known as the point where women and people of color fall out of the STEM pathway, whether it starts in school, it goes all the way to when they're actually in the workforce. From my research, I discovered that there are numerous terms that they may say it's a pathway. It's not actually linear, so there's up and down in points, but two places where people drop out of the pipeline the most is either in undergrad or when you're actually in the workforce. A lot of people don't end up staying within the engineering workforce, which is kind of tragic when you think about it, because you worked all the way up to that point. You get into industry, you've literally given your all and a lot of your brain power, and then now you're doing something else. And so one of the things that I discovered is that and this is not only women, but I think people of color specifically, it's in a workforce that is very, very not people of color. We need some support pathways that will maintain our positions within these organizations. There's number one finding: we need he for she, meaning that if men are the ones that are in the top of the dog pile, they have to be the ones to be able to pull women up and be that a supportive network for those women and the people of color, because specifically seeing is believing. If we cannot see ourselves in those higher upper echelon places in the C-suite, and we don't see ourselves as hiring managers, it's very difficult to be able to maintain our positions in these environments. Secondarily, the idea that diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that is a dirty word, or is a lack of giving merit to people, is number one insane, because even if quote unquote a quota got me in the door, a quota cannot keep me there. You cannot beg, borrow, or steal competence. And in the end, when it's all said and done, a business is there to keep people there and making profits, right? And so when you see a person of color in a role that is of a higher role, it's not because someone gave us a token and put us there. We scrapped, we fought, we did everything humanly possible, and we probably really damn good at our job. And then another factor with that also is that we tend to have more degrees than our counterparts. If you notice in the C-suite, most of them only had their bachelor's. They didn't go past that, and they just basically worked their way up, or they had a father or a brother or cousin that put them on to the job as soon as they graduated from college, and they just literally walked their way up. I know even in television we saw there's guys that walked out of high school, got a job as like a gripper or something, and then they slowly climbed their way up to engineering title, and most of them didn't have engineering degrees. It was really surprising to me how many of the quote unquote engineers at NBC, for example, were like English majors, but because they were taught the skills, they were able to learn and become and get the title engineer. Meanwhile, those of us that actually earned our E's don't even get the pathway into the door. And so the one of the main things that my research came at is that we need access. We need the opportunities to be able to be nurtured all the way through. And then mentorship is very key. And it's not just mentorship, but also sponsorship. Because if you don't have someone that's talking for you when you're not at the table, it's really impossible to ever get to the C-suite.
Thank you, Denisha. Two key words from what she said. As STEM professionals, we need support and we need access, y'all. And that's what programs like this is all about, providing that support and helping you get that access and find it. So, Farah, I'll turn it back over to you. I think right now we're going to open it up to questions from the audience.
Yeah, so we definitely want to give the folks opportunities. So I'm monitoring the chat. I see quite a few questions here, but listen, I think you've been hearing us yap for enough. We do have some time, so we do have a question. Please take yourself off of
I
mute.
have a question. Hi,
What was
my
that?
name is Ebony,
Hi,
and
Ebony.
everything that you said resonates so much. I studied engineering, mechanical engineering in undergrad, but it was really hard. And, I went to like a PWI, and I just wish I had more of a community, like more of like a Black female community to be a part of, to like help me through like figuring out careers and all that. So I totally understand the difficulties. I dropped out of the pipeline, so I never really worked in it, unfortunately, and I always regretted that. My career is not bad, but I always regretted, not working as an engineer. Anyway, I worked for a little bit and got my MBA. And my question to you or the panel is about Black women engineers as entrepreneurs and founders of their own technology companies. I think ownership is really important, especially in the Black community. I think when we start owning our own companies, we can kind of be those sponsors and mentors and all of that. And that's like a wonderful thing. Plus, we also own our businesses. Can you give me examples of some Black female engineers who are starting their own businesses and that are entrepreneurs that maybe are not like the most obvious out there? Or can you talk about maybe what you think is needed in order to encourage more Black women engineers to become entrepreneurs?
I could answer that one. So I'm an engineer that started a company last year, Jump Dreams Incorporated. I have friends. She's a more computer science Black woman. She used to be the department chair of computer science at Spelman, and she has started her own company on like data science stuff for Black women and consulting and some of that stuff. I think they're out there. I'm trying, like, it's off the top of my head. I might have to follow up offline and like maybe send you some people that I know that have their so it may not all be technology companies. Like I think of Monica Cox, for example. She's a engineer, but she does things on, it's more sort of helping people navigate academia, workplace injustices and things like that. So, what was the second part of your question? I can't remember that.
Oh yeah, the second part was, I think it was what do you think is needed to encourage more Black women and engineers to become entrepreneurs?
And I think some of it is what's making them not is, do they have ideas that they feel like is worthy of pursuing? I mean, that's the big thing. And I mean, certain communities like gathering together and just, I think Markel said it, like iron sharpening iron. I have people around me, for example, that cultivate this entrepreneurial mindset actually from undergrad. So I think it's about community and finding that tribe. I don't have a very good answer. This is a really good question because I never thought about it. It's so few Black women engineers, and then it's sort of like the ones that are starting their companies. Yeah, so that's my surface answer.
Okay, so one of the barriers, and I have a side business that is not engineering based though. I like graphic design, so I do custom embroidery and um, I help build businesses brand themselves, and that was just basically after years of being in the field and seeing branding done poorly. And so kind of one of those, let as a problem solver, let me try to put my hat on for something that I'm really passionate about. And the one of the biggest barriers is access to capital. And if we notice, Black Girl Ventures was one of the first companies that went into venture capitalism to try to give access to capital to specifically Black women owned businesses. And due to the same guy that sued on behalf of that Asian kid for that lived in Canada about affirmative action in college, also sued Black Girl Ventures, saying that they're discriminating against uh, everybody else by giving Black women capital, even though Black women still only get less than 1% of the venture capital money that exists out in the market. So again, it's one of those situations where just like six AAA, just like Hidden Figures, you move the goalposts every time we get closer to doing something extraordinary. And so it's one of those things where we are still going to have to find a way to support each other in these ventures without hopefully incurring unnecessary ire from our other people, our cousins, I would say, our distant cousins, upset that they're Black women that want to own businesses and thrive and survive without them.
And I'll just add too, I think also it's really important to show little girls and women like you can combine, you can do something that you love, and there's something in STEM engineering that's related. I think a lot of times, especially now as we have all of these programs, girls in STEM, there's a lot of pressure to go into it. And if it's not something that they really love, then, they may not stay in it, right? So finding ways to find things that they love and connect it, right? So like even I think Tahira said it, like my daughter really loves medicine, right? And she's loved it since she watched Doc McStuffins, right? That was her thing. She loves medicine. But the engineer in me is like, oh, you want to be an engineer like mommy? And she's like, well, I don't even know, like, is there medicine in it? And I'm like, oh girl, yes, let me tell you. So I talked to her about biomed, right? And now she's kind of interested in, prosthetics and, using the engineering degree because she can, look at the biomechanics of it and also be able to insert it if she wants to, become a surgeon. Or so it's like really helping them to understand how like engineering is connected to things they love. One of my girlfriends, really like cosmetics from the time we were like in high school and everything. And so now she works at Revlon. She has several patents for lipsticks, for nail polishes, but like cosmetics is her thing. And, she's working on coming up with her own cosmetic line, right? Has patents. So we just have to be able to show that connection and really help them to understand like entrepreneurship is possible, it is the key, and that they can do it.
And if I could just chime in real quickly, I'm going to throw the link in the chat. NSBE does have a special interest group or a SIG focused solely on entrepreneurship. So if you want more information on that, I'll throw the link in the chat.
Hi, I have a question as well. My name's Rolake. I studied computer science engineering at Lehigh University. And yeah, I feel like I'm so glad I joined this call. Um, a lot of what you guys said really resonated with me. In my year, there's only two Black girls in the computer science, and a lot of other Black women like didn't pursue STEM degrees. So I got my degree. I kind of towards the end of my degree, with the deadlines and everything, I got sick and tired of coding. I like it, like I couldn't do it. It was like almost like every 2 to 3 weeks they're asking you to move heaven and earth, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So currently I work in cybersecurity. And I know several of y'all have had different jobs. I'm not obsessed with my job currently. I don't enjoy it. I'm not interested in. I like the fact that it pays me money and that's all. Um, how did y'all manage like going into different industries or finding like after you've joined the workforce, kind of pivoting to a new role or to a new job? I think that's something I'm struggling with a little now. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure like should I just stick it out for another year or two and then go back to school, or I don't know. Like how did you guys kind of navigate that?
I don't know if it's the millennial mindset or something, but if it don't serve me, I am not staying. Like I'm not, it just won't. Like it. I started when I started getting ulcers in one role where I like my boss was really making me feel like I was being pressed. I really, in the end, said, you know what, for my own mental health, I gotta find something else. And the thing about it is that despite what others might say, is that having an engineering degree means that you can literally do anything, like legitimately anything. My career has spanned from education management to television to being project manager. Like I literally just find the things that I know I can give back and serve with. And I am proud to say that majority of my career, I have worked in places where I got to serve and give back to the community. And the moment that I feel that I am not, number one, being nurtured in my environment, and number two, that I'm not really helping people in the way that I'm supposed to, it's a sign that, that uncomfortable feeling, like, you know what, I love the money, but I gotta go. And so one thing that I will say to you is that life is way too short to be in a place where you are suffering, number one. And number two is that the unfortunate side of it is that I've seen way too many people in their 40s and 50s in the grave, like literally having heart attacks and strokes and terrible things happening because of the stress of their job. So I would never say just tomorrow quit. I would say always make sure that you line some stuff up, but don't also be afraid to try things, because Tara said it best. Sometimes you gotta fail up, because you never know what you'll do just by trying something new.
I definitely echo that, and plus 1,000 plus ones on what Denisha said. You have to do that. When I started in my career, I was young. I worked for a consulting company. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm making such good money, but I was working like 80 hours. It was ridiculous. And worked on this project, and they said, okay, we got limos. We're gonna send everybody home. I'm excited. I'm in the limo calling my mother like I'm in the limo, and the limo driver got to my apartment, And I was like, okay. And he was like, no, we were told to like stay here because I needed to like take a shower and get back on my project after we'd worked like all night long on this particular project. And at that moment in time, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm making money, but I can't even enjoy it. And you want me to really go take a shower, change my clothes, and come back to work to start this project? And I was like, this is not quality of life. Right. So it was like during that time, like my husband, we were dating at the time, and I was just like, bruh, I need to do something different. And so I took a huge pay cut and I left industry, and my salary was cut, but I was like, we didn't have no kids, we weren't married, we didn't have a mortgage. So it was a little bit easier to do it because there were less risks, but I took a huge risk because I was just like, I don't want to live like this. You have to do that. You can't live in misery. So, find something, whatever it is that you really love. And like Denisha said, I mean, we know fools around here. You don't want to just jump out your job. So make sure you have money. But even if it means going back to school for something that you love, that could be something totally different. Explore. You sound young, you have a lot of opportunity, and life is too short to be in a job that you hate and are miserable at.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I had put a question in the chat, but I'm hearing you all talk and I'm like, it makes perfect sense. I'm hearing that there are women, Denisha, you mentioned that there are two stages when women drop out of the pipeline. Seems like when they're in undergraduate school and then actually when they're within the workforce. And I'm thinking that for some of these jobs within the industry, it's so high demand that it's really hard for women who are seeking to start a family to have the time to dedicate towards having a family and raising children. It's almost as if it's a crime for you to take the time off. And I know that I work within higher ed, and sometimes you could feel that way, and even in another industry, but I could just imagine, and Aisha, you confirmed it just now, that the quality of life can be really a challenge in your career. What can be done to help support women as they want to pursue those careers? And I don't know. I just want to know what can be done. Maybe it's more support groups, maybe it's more attention, maybe it's legislation. Like, what can we do?
The unfortunate thing is that when we're looking at diversity, equity, inclusion being attacked at this point, diversity, equity, inclusion isn't only brown people. It's women that could potentially get pregnant. It's men that may have epilepsy, and that is considered diversity, equity, inclusion. Someone that has autism. There's a number of things that considered diversity, equity, inclusion. And an unfortunate thing is that in a there have even in the findings of my study, they said that they would go into positions and men would say, well, you're just going to get pregnant anyway. So I don't even know why I would go ahead and promote you in comparison to a counterpart that maybe settled in his career. And men get kudos for taking care of the family. And when they have children, they are seen as, you're the breadwinner, so you're going to be the one that deserves to get the promotion. And it may not even be that case. They might not be as good as you are at your job, but they're under the perception that the man has to take care of the family, so he deserves to be promoted and to be lifted up. Meanwhile, they're saying that they in a lot of cases, women of childbearing age, you're going to just leave anyway, so there really is no need to nurture and support your career. And one of the things that I would suggest, and this is policy, and maybe not in this current administration, but eventually when madness is washed away and saner minds prevail, we are going to have to be talking on a policy level that maternity, paternity leave, all those things are vital to the quality of life of people. Our birth rates are dropping because you make it hard to be parents. Like, it is, the point is there, like the idea of one salary home is not something that is typical in our day. Most people have to work, and if you're saying that a woman's career has to be put on the back burner because she wants to be a parent. I think there has to be some kind of methodology, policy wise, that can address the discrimination that still exists in the workforce. I don't think, and I believe that there is a way for you to have it all. It's just we have to have supportive environments in order to make it happen. And sometimes it comes down to having a woman supervisor or someone else that knows your plight in order for you to be able to thrive and survive in these kind of environments.
I want to just jump in and say we as women too need to stand up, support each other and not have amnesia. Because what I've seen is, now since my kids are older and talking to some of my colleagues whose kids are, much older than mine, they have amnesia because they don't have kids and they're not taking them to practice and they're not running around and, all of those things. So coming down on someone who has to do that, it's like that's not fair. You don't remember what it was like for you. So we have to stand up for one another. We have to support each other and just make sure that, like Denisha said, it's about policy, it's about laws, and it's about supporting each other. It is difficult. It is definitely a double standard. When I would travel, even my own mother asked me, who's taking care of the twins? And I would be like, the person who went half on their DNA, their father. He's taking care of them. But when he would travel, he would never get that question. Nobody asked him, oh, who's taking care of the twins when you're away? No, but me, oh my goodness, you're leaving the twins? Like, I need to work. So it definitely is that standard, but we just have to support each other. And men, you have to be allies to help do that as well.
So I want to say something real quick, just real quick, from another perspective that I've seen in academia from an equity, because this topic of equity is very, very nuanced, right? For example, professors, if they have kids, their kids go to college, can get a discount. But what about professors that don't have kids? I can't have my niece do it. Why gotta be my direct DNA? Why can't have my niece? Why can't have, that's a problem. And then you have other things like, for example, I'm going to Cali at the end of March because the department head got to watch the husband traveling, they got to stay home and watch the kid. This other person, she can't because her husband going to be in China. I was like, oh, so the childless one got to go to LA when all these planes dropping out the sky. Let me not even talk about it. God got me, I'm good. But that's a flip side of like different kinds of things where even one of my other colleagues, they talk about how the single, or I'm not single anymore, I'm married, and I don't have kids at home, teach the 8 a.m. class because I got to drop kids off. Like, who said I want to be at 8 o'clock in the classroom? Who said I want to do that? Don't do that to me. And these are so it gets really tricky because there's an equity issue. So it's like getting insurance that says, hey, for dental insurance, only people that don't have a gap in their teeth could get dental coverage and the rest can't. Like, why can't I apply this discount to a child of my choice? Why I gotta be one that came out of my DNA? That's a problem. Anyhow, sorry, let me get off the bunny trail.
Let's say, like you said, we're having a conversation. Love it. So actually we're a little bit over time. We're gonna do one more question. If there's anyone that has a pressing question that they've been holding on to all evening, you got 10 seconds.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
see? There you go.
I'm in my garage, well, in the lobby now, and I wanted to know, how can persons or women over 40, I know there's a lot of focus on the millennials and people younger, but sometimes women over 40 want to change things up a little bit too. How can women over 40 get into the STEM and engineering field at an entry-level position, not necessarily going back to school, but just going into the workforce?
What's your
As
current
possible.
background?
Accounting.
Accounting.
That's an interesting question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I see in the
Because,
chat.
girl, you don't want to go back. You don't want to do engineering school. I will warn you. We
No,
will.
but you know what? There are a lot of certifications. There's a lot of free resources. I was working at Amazon. I recently left Amazon, but I was working in training and certification. And there are resources that are online. just for your own knowledge and to help you, even if you want to, jump into the cloud. Like the cloud is it right now. Everybody's talking about the cloud, and there are jobs, there are money, and there are resources that you can look up. I can't speak for all the rest of them because I did work at Amazon, but I know like Coursera has some, Google has some. So look at some certifications that you could do. I mean, and they have it from the basic level, like Cloud 101, right? Just to help you get a certification. And I will tell you that, for a lot of companies, even applying to jobs, if they see you have a certification in like, cloud cybersecurity, like they're looking at your resume. So the fact that you already are an accountant, you definitely have that mindset. You can go, look at certifications, see which one is good for you. The ones that are online are at your own pace. So, and then once you start, sometimes they will help you with staying on a path. You get one certification, then you can get another. And I think that, to me, from what I've seen from, adults that I've worked with who want to get into the cloud, and that was really one of the things that happened during COVID. There were so many people who lost their businesses and, were looking to change careers and wanted to do something different. And they utilized these online resources to get certifications. And then they jumped into becoming a solution architect and, all of these different things. So I would say that, start with looking at online resources, in a bunch of different tech companies. And there are many times they're free. So you can do it at your own pace and you can start at the basic level.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for that great piece of information. So we have come to the end of our program here. We want to thank you so much. But before we actually wrap up and officially sign off, Markel, do you have any announcements for the NSBE side of the house before we let
Yeah,
people?
just really quickly for the NSBE members on the call, and those interested, our national convention is next week in Chicago. If you want some more information on that, the website is convention.nsbe.org. We're all going to be in Chicago. We will be in Chicago, so we look to see you and network in person there. And as I said earlier, iron sharpens iron. So definitely feel free if you see any of us, to pull us on the side, give us a hug, talk. More than happy to support each other. As far as NSBE NYC, we do have two events coming up next month. Our general body meeting on the 13th of March and the social mixer on the 27th. So if you want more info on those events, check out our website, nsbenyc.org. Thank you all for your time on this Wednesday evening, and I'll turn it back to Farah.
All right, so from the NCNW Co-op City section, what I just did, I just dropped our website in the chat because we do have lots of information if you want to learn how to become a member of our section, learn more about NCNW, and also we do have links to upcoming events. We do have an event this Saturday, a Candle and Sip. If you're interested in doing something outside the box, relax, relate, release. We also have another event coming up March 15th. It's Women's Represent, another in-person panel discussion celebrating women because it is Women's History Month. But we always have new events coming online. If you want to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, you can get that all the information from our website. And thank you, my IT crew. We've dropped all of our contact information in the chat. And pause. I also want to make sure that the panelists, I saw you guys are awesome. We're chatting and supporting in the comments and encouraging. And so iron sharpens iron. So I am so blessed to be amongst the number, being a Black female engineer. And this is why I wanted to do this, is to highlight the awesomeness in our community. If you haven't done so already, Denisha, Tahira, or Aisha, if you want to drop your contact information in the chat for folks to contact you. If you want, you might not want anybody looking for you later. That's fine, no pressure. But if those have other questions or like you guys are brainstorming in the comments, I love it. If you want to give people the opportunity to do that later, This session is also being recorded. NCNW will post it on our website. The NSBE group will also have it posted on their website, and also panelists you will have access to. So you want to pass this on to others for nieces and nephews or cousins or aunts who missed out on this great, inspiring conversation. Feel free to share this with them because you definitely want to get the momentum going. Maybe keep this going for next year. Who knows? I'm putting it out to the universe. Because a conversation needs to be had. On behalf of both organizations, we want to thank you all for joining us for this great evening of conversation. And I hope you were blessed. I hope you took back some information. I hope it got the wheels going. And we thank you.
And thank you to our panelists. Thank y'all so much. I've known all of you for so long. I'm super proud of y'all. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you all.
All right. Have a good night.
I had put my stuff in the chat earlier on. So do people know how to save the chat? They might want to try to do that. Click the three dots and save the chat.
Yeah.
Up in the upper right, and then gather that stuff.
Yeah, I put my contact info in there as well. And yeah.
It's way up.
That's it.
But you could Google me and find me. Okay. Good night, y'all.
Right.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.